Anastasia, if we try to
Mhm.
watch a show together, she'll be super psyched for the first 3 episodes of the show, and then if there's like a day where we don't watch it, it's gone forever in
Oh, that's
history
how I am.
completely. That's
That's how
you?
I am. Hmm.
Fuck, man,
I
that's
know.
terrible. I'm so sorry for
Unless
Phoebe.
unless it like it grips me and I'm like, oh, okay. Like Game of Thrones was kind of like that.
Yeah.
What's another one? Man, I'm trying to
Have
think of
you ever
like some
watched any like
weird.
long running shows like Seinfeld or anything like that?
Nope.
Okay. Man,
Like
yeah,
like
Anastasia's the
Family Guy.
same exact
I
way.
could say
It's
that.
like
'Cause, like you can jump in a Family Guy at any time, but like an
right,
actual like progression to where you have to keep up with the episodes. I
nothing.
think maybe 1 or 2 seasons of something.
You're a very free man, free from the
Yeah,
shackles of corporate media.
I am. I do not eat their spoonfuls of shit.
It's either I don't know. What do you think? It's like a critically short attention span, or do you think
I
it's
think
just a
I think
lack
it
in
is,
ability
man.
to hold interest?
Or like I think it's both. Like I'll think of like you know things outside of the box or try to. I'm like, oh, okay, I think this is gonna go there, and usually it kind of happens. Sometimes it's like no, but I don't know. Like
Oh,
it
nice.
doesn't grip me, and everything is just kind of like very
Hi, G-Lock.
repetitive. I think.
G-Lock, let us know if your wife is like this, or if she's able to tear through a whole series of a whole series of shows. But yeah, no, my wife Anastasia. If there is literally 1 to 2 days of separation from the last episode of a show, is
Hmm.
completely out. It's like I'm just not in the mood to watch it anymore. I just can't do it.
Yep.
You have to be in a very specific headspace to watch these things. Did I tell you what we're talking about this week, Chase? Just overall,
Mm-mm.
just in general.
I think a
Okay.
little bit about the knees over toes guy, but
Yes, yeah. So that weenie came up last time. We talked about him last time. Mick pulled up some random
hmm
meme Instagram post from him, and then we had some cringy reactions to it. And then some guy was like, "We watched Gilmore Girls last month and Haunting of Hill House this weekend." Is Haunting of Hill House like? I thought that was like a teen. I thought that what is Haunting of Hill House, Chase?
fuck if I know. I don't know.
That
I've never
seems
heard of that.
I have no idea what that is. I feel like that's like a young adult Halloween drama.
Hunting of Hill House. Yeah, it kind of sounds like that, but
It sounds like that.
I have no idea what it is.
Phoebe would love it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we had some reactions to Knees Over Toes, guys. It was kind of one of those things where Chase and I have very similar opinions, but we never really expressed it at length or as to why. And then some guy was like, "You guys sound like closed-minded fools. I had great success with this, blah 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 blah." And we were like, "Okay, that'd be a good thing to talk about."
Yeah.
Um, Other things, we have a bunch of form checks to do this time that came in from last week. Um, Talk about Louis C.K.'s new movie, 4th of July. Chase didn't see it. I was hoping Mick would be here to talk about it because Mick also really likes Louis C.K. As a comedian. And then I almost got vomited on at the sushi buffet, which was awesome. Anything cool happen to you, Chase, in the past week? Anybody at the gym vomit
Not
on you?
really.
Anything like that?
No, I mean one of our members pulled 605 for a PR.
Nice.
So that
Sick. Was it the
was
rest
pretty exciting.
ex-professional wrestler guy?
Yeah, the big dude.
Nice.
Hmm.
That's pretty sick, man.
Um, but other than that, like, dude, I'm telling you, like, I live a pretty boring ass life. Like,
Has anyone ever vomited at your gym at all?
in Wichita Falls, yeah, we had these two fat ass brothers that were just very annoying, and we
Just a
were
Mario and
always,
Luigi type of guys?
well, yeah, kind of. Like one of them was really round and plump, but they were
Mm-hmm.
super tall, and like even though one of them kind of looked like the Mario character, but like he was just like 6'3", and then the brother was Luigi, just a little bit skinnier, and he was
Yeah,
like 6'5". Like they were big kids, but
that's pretty sick.
they're just fat asses. They always complained, like they were always late. So the coach that I worked with during that time just always made them push the prowler and just nonstop, man, the whole entire session, and they would puke their ass up.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's funny.
amazing. I think the Prowler is just uniquely the best conditioning implement, despite the fact that there are so many. I'd say I think that has to be just the highest in terms of like equipment price. If you go into a normal gym,
Mhm.
they're paying the most for cardio equipment.
Yeah.
All you need is a Prowler and just some
Yep.
amount of space. That's it. I guess some weight as well. You can do
Not
sandbags
even
or
that,
whatever.
dude. Just like push a fucking giant ass like cylinder of some sorts, like a feed trough or like a goddamn silo, up like a side of a hill, and just
It's
do
a
that
very
constantly. It's fun.
Oklahamian answer. Get a feed
Yeah,
trough.
very
Very
country.
Sisyphus with a feed trough.
Yes.
Anything cool on your Instagram? You pulled any PRs recently? Did you put that guy 605 deadlift on the?
On my story, yeah.
On your story? Nice. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. And then have you
But
pressed anything
no.
since your 375 deadlift, whatnot?
So this week coming up is kind of the more intensity week. So I'll try to
Okay.
hit tomorrow 380 for a 5x1. I'll try to do that. And then, man, with the cleans and stuff like that, I had to switch time. So did I tell you about the nail salon people how
Yeah.
they're kind of complaining? So
Yeah.
get
Always,
this.
constantly.
So it's
Good.
actually not the nail salon people. Like, yeah, I know it's just like a fucking never-ending twist here.
Was it the police? Who was it?
No, so me and my boss were there like late Tuesday because we were talking about some stuff, and I agreed to train in the after classes,
Mm-hmm.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So they were still open, and my boss goes over there and he just kind of was like, "Hey, is there any damage, or do you have any problems still with my coach here lifting?" They're like, "No, like we don't care at all." And he's just like, "What? Like I thought y'all were complaining to the landlord." They go, "No, no, no. It's the landlord's wife that came and
Oh
got her
my
nails done."
God.
Yes, at the time that I was training. So there's no fucking evidence. There's nothing there of like damage.
Right.
It's just she can't get quality time at the nail salon whenever she trains or whenever I train.
Right.
And I
We
was
need a
like, that,
communist revolution
oh, it's
immediately.
a,
All
yeah,
landlords done.
fuck them. Yeah,
God
fuck
damn.
them. That dude's a dick who
Yeah.
owns our location, and a lot of people do not like him. He's just kind of cuts corners and just he's kind of a little sleazy guy. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, once I heard that, I was like, fuck that. I'm gonna fucking blare like some death metal shit at 2 p.m. every fucking day until that bitch
We were like,
comes.
this is my hour in the yard. The rest of it, I'm back in my cell.
Yes.
This is the time that I
Yes.
have.
Yes.
Man, yeah, that's funny. I work out in like whenever I'm training just by myself, I work out in my apartment complex's gym. They
Hmm.
don't have a deadlift platform, so I just brought in some pads for me to deadlift on by
Hmm.
myself. And whenever I come in, people are using them for the craziest shit. Like people are using
Like
them.
crash pads or
No, just like literally just like those just puzzle mats. I stack up 3 or 4
oh,
puzzle
okay.
mats. I stand on a piece of wood myself. That way, if I'm pulling anything heavy on there, it's not going to like fuck their floor up. The floor is
Yeah, yeah.
hard. It's a concrete floor, but it would just mar the surface they put on it because they didn't
Yeah,
use
yeah.
horse mats. Um, and then every time people are just fucking with them in just the weirdest ways, in the absolute weirdest ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one recent thing is that someone bought a weighted hula hoop to use in the gym, which is amazing. I didn't know they make weighted hula hoops
I
just in
didn't either.
general. Neither did I. I tried it. It's not difficult in the slightest. There was about 4 seconds where I was like, "What's happening?"
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like a 20-pound weighted hula hoop. Um,
Damn.
yeah, it was pretty sick. The gym is
That's kind of
just the
cool.
biggest meme gym in the whole world.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah, no, back to the point. We're talking about Kneesovertoes guys stuff today and other charlatans. So I guess we'll just get right into it. Kneesovertoes guy came into popularity. I don't know if he was on Joe Rogan's podcast or Mark Bell's podcast first. I'm not entirely sure what he got his kind of jumping off point by. But basically, what the crowd that he's in this crowd where um, I've only seen people doing yoga. I've seen people doing yoga on the only deadlift platform in the gym. Yeah, man, it's a big open area. People can look at your butt. It's the ideal place to do yoga, I
Dude,
think.
G-Lock, if that happens, man, you're just gonna have to drop a bar on someone. Just fucking spear them with the end of it and be like, get off the platform.
Just please go home. Yeah, I do love whenever people go to the gym to do things that you do not need to go to the gym for, even a little bit.
Hmm.
And it's just like, this is specifically here for this purpose. What are you doing? Why would you want to go somewhere else to do this? But yeah, so Kneesovertoes guy, he got his kind of jumping off platform as a guy who's like introducing new or novel ideas into the standard fitness spaces. Zeitgeist or common lexicon of saying like it's actually good to have a long range of motion around your knees. It's actually good to get a lot of dorsiflexion with the ankle. It's actually good to resist eccentric loading with your quads and your hamstrings. People in kind of the serious circles of weightlifting have been doing this the whole time in a non-revelatory manner. Like if you go
Hmm.
back and you look at like Tom Platz doing some sissy squat work, only his toes are on the ground. He's in an incredible amount of dorsiflexion. He has like 400 pounds of the hack squat. His knees are 3.5 feet in front of his toes already. All Olympic weightlifters get in that position all the damn time. It's probably 10, 12 pages into the squat chapter after the little brief physics things of our book, Starting Strength, where it says, hey, where do you want your knees? Directly over your toes. It wasn't necessarily a novel thing, but I wanted to talk about kind of like what we would typically recommend for pain and injury, and what people on the up and up with pain and injury would recommend, and how it relates back to this. Oh yeah, Sinclair. He came into popularity for his approach to rehab of the knees. Yeah, because you have a lot of people who would just be like, "Oh, I played college football or I played high school football." Like,
Wasn't he
imagine
like
if
a runner? I thought he
I
was
think
like
he
a very
was.
avid runner, and
He could have
he
been a
like destroyed
runner.
his knees or something like that.
I'm not entirely sure on that portion of the backstory, but like imagine if there's an alternate universe Chase where Chase played football in high school, played it a little bit in college, and then just fucked off and drank beer and never exercised again.
Yeah.
It's 15 years later, and then alternate universe Chase says, "Oh man, I can't do anything because of my knees." And then how it gets back in. So Chase, I wrote down some brief points here. We've talked about this before. We have had multiple episodes and kind of what we recommend for pain and injury. How would you normally approach these things? And I believe I kind of matched to our priorities. Let me know if you agree with what I kind of put down for our points here.
Yeah, definitely. First one, manage load. Yeah, like that's kind of like a no-brainer. Like, and everyone kind of figures that out. Even if you don't really think about the approach to scientifically, but if something hurts, you're not going to do what you're supposed to do the day of the workout, right? So if you're squatting normally 405, and man, you rolled your ankle pretty bad playing soccer a few days ago, we're gonna drop down the weight to something that is manageable. So that could be 315, that could be 275, somewhere in that ballpark. And then if they're able to do the full range of motion, that's perfect. But let's say another joint like the knee, you may not be able to go down into a specific range of motion. That's fine. We alternate that with like a box squat, a pin squat, to where you're managing the load through a specific range of motion and getting the rehab through that. And then that kind of goes into like the exercise selection portion of it. There can be some instances where you can kind of isolate the area more, kind of like let's say an RDL for like a hamstring. We're really kind of focusing on that for like a muscle belly tear or low back pain, kind of like a disc bulge or something like that. But as far as that, these are still going to use a bunch of muscle mass, a bunch of compounding things in the body to where all the load is being distributed away from the injured area and you're able to effectively move.
Yeah. All we're looking for basically is just to kind of increase movement over time. That's what any PT is going to look for. They're going to say it's like, all right, so let's say someone fucks up their elbow and they go to a physical therapist and they're like, hey, I can't bench press anymore. And they're going to say, well, have you considered doing like some cable push downs, some independent elbow work, and then like chest flies for your chest? We're basically reconstructing the bench press, but without using the bench press. You're using exercise selection if you have to because something is so prohibitive. So let's say someone can't squat, all right, well, like let's try just pushing the prowler around and then see if that hurts, or it's like, hey, let's try starting with a high box squat and then working our way down. Essentially, the things that we have to work on are velocities, range of motion, weight. And then all of these are just basic joint actions. And then what you want to do with a joint action is how you choose your exercise. So like, let's say, for example, like your distal hamstring insertion on the back of your knee really hurts when you're setting up for your deadlift, right? So it's like, okay, well then we'll just go from the top down. Like Chase said, we'll start with an RDL and you just go as deep as you can. Man, there you go. We're looking for increases in movement. And then we'll kind of get to how a standard approach to pain and injury kind of relates to what he recommends. I feel like, and Sinclair is a big advocate for this gentleman. Let me know if you feel like we're straw manning his arguments. But to me, a lot of what the space seems like, people are like, oh, you got to bulletproof your shoulders. Have you heard things like that before, Chase?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like the phrase bulletproofing your XYZ, saying it's like, oh, you need to get your knees more healthy. You need to get your knees more functional. I think it's really hard to define those. You're never going to add added function to your knee. Like your knee's never going to be able to do something it's not supposed to do. Your knee's not going to become like a spinal extender for some reason. It's going to flex and extend the joint that it's around. So in terms of like things like health, health is super nebulous, function is super nebulous. Do you think that there's anything valid to those statements, Chase, whenever people are talking about bulletproofing health or function?
Well, yeah, they're just kind of ambiguous, right? So it kind of, with those terms and those terminologies, they can sound like they know their stuff without actually going into great detail. So health, what do you mean? So are you talking about making sure the cartilage, the articulating cartilage and the knee joint itself is fine? Are you talking about you're strengthening just the ligaments and not worrying about what the muscle function is doing?
Mm-hmm.
All this other crazy stuff. So them diving into that, they skew around that by just saying, "Hey, I want my knees healthy," or "I just want to feel stronger around it," or
Yeah.
"This will bulletproof this."
It's
But
always like 5% of the pitch. It's always like,
yeah,
oh, we're going to start by bulletproofing your shoulders. Do your shoulders just hurt nebulously? This is how we can fix it. And then
yep,
there's the rest of the 95% of it where it's like, really, what is that? What does that mean? In terms of like let's say Chase's back, for example. Chase, have you ever done like some snatch bat? Like you'll pop a bar up and then you'll catch it on your traps before?
yeah,
Yeah, right. It's pretty typically common exercise for people who are interested in Olympic weightlifting. That compressive force onto someone else who is unfamiliar with it, onto their high thoracic, low cervical vertebrae, would fuck them up for eons, for months. You
yep,
just instant trip to Snap City, straight to the morgue. They would burn your body. Wouldn't even be a funeral. But for Chase, it's totally fine. So if someone was like, I really want to bulletproof my high thoracic spine, would you say like, okay, well, what you need to do is start Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting and strength lifting, all the big whatever lifting, and then figure out how to do a snatch balance with like 365 pounds. They'd be like, that's a terrible pitch. What the hell do you want?
yeah,
What are you talking about?
exactly.
No one would ever say that if someone wanted to have a more robust high thoracic spine. But that's kind of what it does. Chase's spine is now resilient enough to handle those loads because
Mhm.
he's acclimated himself to that sort of exercise and load tolerance over a very, very long period of time. The answers are normally very unsexy,
Yep.
like the people who are really resilient tend to just have a lot of muscle mass, really thick joints, and then they're pretty clever with programming. That's what it is.
Hmm.
End of the day.
Yep.
What, if anything, do you think reduces injury risk, Chase?
It's efficiency in your technique for damn sure. So for the squat, for example, I mean, there is countless numbers of ways of people squatting. Like if you go to a global gym and you look at, if you just, you bring a long chair in there, or you just pair someone at the front desk and be like, look, I'm not going to be a creeper, but
I'm
I
not
just
going
want
to
to
touch a
watch.
weight. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to watch someone use this rack all day, and
Yeah.
just make a note of how, let's say there's 10 people that use this one specific squat rack. Each one of those 10 people are going to do a squat their own individual way of what they think is correct. And it's
Mm-hmm.
going to look nothing similar to each individual, except for maybe putting the bar somewhere in the right area. So efficiency is going to be the number one of reducing injury. So how do we do that? Like we're going to avoid getting a bunch of forces on our knees. We're going to sit back into our hips. All the criteria that we've listed previous.
Yeah, definable, consistent parameters. Like there are a
Hmm.
lot of people who, if you're doing a set of 5 squats for whatever reason, you look at rep 1. Each individual rep looks different than every other rep.
Yeah.
Consistency in technique seems to be one of your best bets for reducing injury risk because you're used to doing the thing that you're doing. Here we go. We got a question. Well, we're also popping in for questions, guys. So if you have anything, please let us know. What is this name? How do you say this name, Chase?
Joka Ingles.
Joka Ingles. He says, my press sucks. I was mainly powerlifting. Can I press 3 times a week? I just finished my NLP. Kinda, not much pressing. What do you think, Chase? Would there have to be
So
some
if
sort of article that you wrote that you would recommend to someone about pressing?
I don't know. I don't know if I even wrote anything like that. But if I if
If you
I
did, what
could
would it be
think of
called?
one, if I could think of one, it would probably be like like upper body frequency or something like that with the press and bench. But just the main thing, look, if you are just coming off like a powerlifting meet or something like that, you have not been training the press as efficiently as you should. So just run a normal novice linear program. Look, it's the novice linear program is more so individualized for each lift, right? But we kind of lump it all together at the beginning because
Mm-hmm.
everyone's a novice, right? But let's say you tweak your hand and you can't pull, but you can still squat. your squat's still progressing, your deadlift is lagging. So whenever you get back to where you can pull something with your hand, you're going to run a novice linear program on your deadlift, whereas your squat, you may be more of an intermediate and then more of an advanced athlete. But yeah, if you haven't been pressing, just do a novice linear program, press twice a week and alternate it with your bench. I think you'll be fine because your bench is already up there. Now just kind of get your press back up there and then eventually add more frequency like that.
Yeah, all the programming rules still apply, and like the P part of the NLP is progression. It's just a strategy to progress the lift. So like, let's say if you've been powerlifting for a few years, you have a pretty advanced bench. You're benching like 275 to 335, somewhere in there. You're up there for like upper decile for bench press, and you just want to start pressing. Just start pressing. All of your sessions for the first 3 months are going to be pressing technique sessions. It's not like you're just going to get it, max out with it, and then start working on like your true max or your true strength. You have a lot of runway for like neurological efficiency in the lift. So just start. It's not going to be super fatiguing. Don't go overboard with the volume. So don't do like 6 or let's say 6 sets of 8. Start with 3 by 5. It's a pretty conservative dose. Add it in after you're benching at least 2 times a week, and then you'll be totally fine. This is all assuming you have a pretty robust benching background. But okay, back to B. What does reduce injury risk? So far, we know that like a broad tolerance to range of motion, a broad tolerance to loading, and then familiarity and experience with what you're doing. So like if I don't play soccer, if I went and played soccer as hard as I possibly could tomorrow, I would probably tweak something. I would at least have like some ankle pain the day afterwards, maybe some knee pain. If I was just flying all over the place, I may fall and fuck something up even worse. However, if I did like a 3-month, soccer build-up camp in the off season and I played soccer for the first day of the season, just like everybody else, my injury risk would be pretty much flat with the rest of the cohort there. So I think
you see that. Well, I mean, hell, you see that a lot in CrossFit because their program is not an actual program. It's WODs. It's mixing and matching whatever they want to do today. And the risk of injury in CrossFit boxes, I mean, everyone knows someone who's fucked up their shoulders or their knees or their back from doing CrossFit.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, this is I didn't tell you this one about this, Chase. So a bunch of guys in my gym are prepping for judo senior nationals. We have one guy. He's at he just walks around at 7-8% body fat. He's just shredded constantly. He does CrossFit. He's very muscular, really tall guy. He's not strong at all. He can bench like 195. He weighs like 180 some pounds. But he introduced just for some random new WOD that they were doing. It was Roman chair sit-ups where you tap the plate to the ground and then you pull it up and sit up. So it's like a pullover into a sit-up. And he's just a super, he's a very athletic guy. So he already has a big base. So he went way overboard with how much he can actually tolerate because his muscles were far conditioned past the point that tendons, cartilage, all that other jazz was. So he woke up the next day, all of his abs were like black and blue, and his stomach was like swollen and distended. So he ended up going to the ER. And it was like, it's like you incurred like some major bruising and bleeding from all the crazy Roman chair sit-ups you did. He ended up having to pull out of the competition. He bought his plane tickets, he bought his hotel room, all of that stuff. He ended up going down just to watch. But it was crazy. It was absolutely insane. So it was like 2 weeks out from a competition, I'm going to introduce a new movement, take it to RPE 10, 0 reps in reserve. I'm going to push it as hard as I possibly can for a tremendous amount of volume, and let's see what happens. He ended up straining his hip flexors, straining all of his abs, all of his obliques. Everything was just crazy. But yeah, and then what that was, it was like, how do you reduce your injury risk? That guy had the most bulletproof abs you could probably make, right?
Yeah,
he did an absolute shit ton of ab exercises. He was doing a dynamic rotational sport 4 or 5 times a week, lifting a lot of weights. There was no way to bulletproof his abs from something that he just has never done before, and that's what a lot of it is. It's consistency and the ability to replicate what you're doing. What do you think you could actually change, Chase? So if someone was like, hey, how can I make myself more robust or resilient? What do you think is actually realistic that someone can do?
This is all kind of stemming from it's a habit change. So whether it's from you're sitting at a chair all day, now we're going to add in a new stress where it's a barbell on your back and gradually load it. That's a habit change. Or if you're wanting to learn an instrument, you have to practice that, right? So we're introducing more practice and we're learning music. We're scaling that at a rate that's more manageable. So all this stuff is all stemming from just what are you currently doing, and then you have to find how to maximize it and do it most efficiently, and go through that at a step-by-step process to where it's not too much.
Yeah, you don't just start with like the hardest piece
Exactly.
of sheet music you can find because
Yeah,
it's
I'm
the
not gonna play
coolest.
Beethoven's fucking like Fifth Symphony whenever I don't even know like what the white and black keys are called
Yeah,
on the
you're
piano.
gonna
Like I
start
don't
with
know.
like Hot Cross Buns, Star Spangled
Yeah,
Banner, something like
exactly.
that.
Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Exactly. Yeah, working your way up. I'm excited for the Starting Strength conference 2 or 3 years from now. Chase is going to be playing piano the whole time.
Yep.
That'll be the goal. But in terms of like what you can actually change, it's just planning, using your brain in advance. So like if there's a situation, let's say you live in Washington, Mount Vesuvius just blows up, and it's like you have to run a marathon right now. You can't get to your car. If you haven't been running marathons, tough luck, buddy.
Yeah.
Sorry. It sucks. But luckily, our athletic careers are a little bit more predictable than some sort of like apocalyptic event. So what you can actually change is generally just better planning forward, and then slowly building up your tolerances for these things. This is what I dislike. So Sinclair, he said like the marketing shit kills me. Well, yeah, this part. He said the marketing shit kills me. Don't get me wrong, and I think it does for me. I think it's a pretty harmful message, but like essentially, it is. To me, it's rather culty. It's what all these people do, like Squat University, like Joel Seedman, a lot of the like you're doing something biomechanically wrong. Let's say Athlete X is another guy who does this a lot. Basically, it's saying it's like you've been sinning, you were doing something wrong, and we can save you. Here's how. Generally, these people are going to come across the content whenever they're already having a problem. So if someone thinks they have the world's best squat technique, they're never looking up squat technique videos. Some guy who just has a constantly hard penis is never going like, I wonder, let's go to Viagra.com and see what happens. I'm going to get some Blue Chew. It's not happening. That guy's going and having a good time. So whenever people come across these resources, something is already wrong. And then what you have is someone saying, I can help you, Got another comment from Joka. We'll read this real quick. Chase?
So Joka Inglis said again, at 260, 5'11", I'm thinking of losing some weight now that I'm strong-ish. Should I modify my press novice linear program or expect a stall? Yeah, if you lose some weight, you're going to expect a stall pretty damn quick. Don't worry about losing weight right now. Just finish a novice linear program on your press, which is going to happen really quick because it's the press. Maybe wait like 2 months. And then from there, once your press is way stronger than where it is right now, then you can start losing weight if you want to, which I don't think you should. But
yeah, it really depends on how fluffy you are, dog. I mean, Chase, how much do you weigh? How tall are you?
Currently I'm about 255, 260, and I'm probably 6 foot.
No, you're taller than 6 foot, Chase. You're
No, I'm
solid
6 foot.
6'1", 6'2".
I'm not 6'2".
Dude, you're
I'm
like
like,
6'3" at least.
I wish.
No, man. Okay. Yeah, so that's Chase, and then you're 265'11". Chase is a really big boy. I'm about 180 at 5'11". I do weight class sports, so it's different. But 260 at 5'11", if you're not super like senior with training, if you haven't been training for a long time, you're likely just pretty fat. I don't think you're, super muscular. 20-25%. Yeah, people always lowball it by like 5%. Generally, people have a bad eye for this, so it's like you probably have room to lose. Like if you lose 15 pounds of fat on a conservative deficit, you probably won't even notice. You know what I mean? It's like if someone comes in and is really fat, it's hard for them to stay that fat. Frankly, in my opinion, I don't know about you, Chase, but like, I don't know. I'd have a hard time. Yes. Oh, excuse me. I misread that. So he said he is currently around 30% body fat. What do you think, Chase? Do you think that's too high?
I mean, it's not my body, so I don't really care. But like, look, if you're not satisfied, then yeah, like it's your life, you got to live it. But again, talking about efficiency and stuff like that, there is going to be an easier time losing, this 30% body fat down to 20 or whatever the hell you want it, versus getting your press, which is probably like at, I don't know, like 85 pounds, and trying to get it up to 185 pounds. Like that's going to take more time, more resources of recovery, all this shit that we've talked about in the books. I wouldn't be so. I have no fish.
What?
Oh, I have no
Oh,
rush.
no rush.
Exactly.
I may just leave this comment up there for the whole stream. I have no fish. None.
But like it's still gonna take a lot more time, a lot more energy, a lot more resources to get your press up higher than it would losing weight. So, I mean, if you could find a way to where you're kind of doing both, which is going to be hard, I would do that. But you're going to hit a stalling point on one of the two things, whether it be your weight loss or making progress on the bar. And at that point, it's you got to decide which one you're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's a personal value proposition to be like, well, I want to get as strong as possible as fast as possible, and then it's like, okay, why? Do you have a meet coming up? Are you trying to sign up for a meet and you want to be somewhat strong before you do that? Things like that. So figure that out. All right, like being really fat, 30%, you're there, you're near like obesogenic conditions. That is not good for you, just in general. It's not good for something to do chronically. So if you're like, you know what, actually, I'll just tackle that body fat problem 2 years from now. You probably have already been putting it off for a little bit, so consider tackling it now. You could probably trim off 5% body fat. No, just switch to diet soda, stop ordering shakes or milkshakes or how you're getting when you're going to get Chick-fil-A. Switch from the fried sandwiches to the grilled sandwiches. All those little changes that we've talked about before. I'm probably fine. Question from Johnny G. He said, switch to a 4-day split. Still add 5 pounds each workout. Stalled my squat. Add a volume day. Question mark. Chase, thoughts? Well, Chase, I have a question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
How many weeks are there in a year?
There is 52.
If we times that by 5, so we have 250-ish if my math is correct.
You mean 4?
No, times 5.
Why 5? Where are we getting this?
Because he wants to add. Let's say he wants to add 5 pounds.
Oh, 5 each workout. Okay, each week.
Do you think adding 200 for how many intermediates is adding 250 pounds to your squat per year reasonable?
Yeah.
So Chase, what's your heaviest squat?
655.
So that only took you 2.5 years, basically.
Fuck, I wish.
You went from no squatting to 655.
Yeah.
2.5 years, yeah. Yeah, Johnny G, recalibrate your expectations. 5 pounds a week is a tremendous amount. 5 pounds a workout is a tremendous amount. You just need to start having different PRs. So it's like you have a PR for your single, a PR for your triple, a PR for your set of 5. I like to program with doubles and sets of 4 and sets of 6. It's crazy. Whatever the hell you want to do. You need to have a variety of targets to work at and then make sure you're hitting a PR somewhere almost all the time. But it's not just like a straight volume day starts at 0 pounds and then end of the year it's at 250, end of next year it's at 500 and so on, Okay. Do you think we covered that question, Chase? Do you want to touch on that some more?
I don't know. I think we need a little bit more information. Like, where's your weights at currently? Like,
yeah,
what are you doing currently? Like, yeah, it's a 4-day split, but like, what does your reps and sets look like? All that stuff. But
yeah. Let us know if you can. Sinclair called Hoka Ingles disgusting, probably because he doesn't have any fish left, which is understandable. You can't have a guy with no fish going around here. But okay, back to the cultish pipeline. So people who are looking up, like, I have knee pain, I can't squat, I can't do lunges, my knee hurts when I do yoga or Pilates or I go to spin class, whatever. They're already in a situation where things are bad, right? So they're kind of vulnerable. They're looking for a solution already. Then there comes along nice, charismatic young man who's like, listen, I had knee pain before and I solved it and you can too. And then just starts fucking flinging himself around on the screen. People who don't have a lot of experience with athletics are like, oh my God, that's so cool. But essentially it goes to like a discovery of new information. And then afterwards you say, oh, I've realized I've done everything wrong. The reason I had my knee pain is because I wasn't pulling a sled backwards. I wasn't walking backwards on a treadmill. I wasn't doing sissy squats, blah, blah, blah. This is all kind of in like this realization and exposure phase where you just get this big information dump from the guy. So you find his Instagram and then you look through 30, 40 Instagram posts of people who look like you or look even worse than you doing these things that you think you can't do. Then there's kind of like this long on-ramp of indoctrination This is normally where people are like buying the programs. They're buying the template, the knee rehab templates. They're really going all in on whatever system it is. And at that point, it is like a firm belief that you just can't shake. Now it's like Jonestown tier. I did the program. I feel a little bit better now. My knee doesn't hurt. My husband wants to have sex with me every 3 months now, up
Yeah.
from 5 months before. It's way better. Any thoughts on that, Chase? Have you seen this sort of process before?
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly typical of a lot of like the shit that's being fed on like Instagram, with like dieting, with weird, again, weird guys like Kneesovertoes guy, and from charlatans on like evangelists and all that shit. But no one really stops and asks why or how or any of the basic questions that you're taught at an early age to ask someone whenever you don't understand something completely. Everyone's just kind of getting this spoon-fed bullshit and they just go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what makes us different, because Rip has literally explained this time after time because he had to. As he was coaching people, people would ask him, "Hey, why the fuck are we doing this thing with our hips? Like, why are we driving it out of the bottom? And why is no one else doing it?" And he's like, "Well, hold on, let me come back to you on that." So he went through the whole entire first principles of, the science of the anatomy, the physiology, the physics, all that shit, the principal understanding of stuff, and then built a model, and then from there exposed that model to several 100,000 different people, and now he has a solid basis of why we do things correctly. Versus like this guy, yeah, he may have some exposure to a lot of people, but where is his model coming from? What is his understanding? Like, how, if we were to ask him why about certain stuff, could he actually articulate it into a reasonable and understanding fashion? And a bunch of the time, guys like that, they can't, and they get mad, and then they start kind of just using, emotional, triggering shit to kind of attack you.
The tiers of argumentation descend really rapidly in terms of
Yep.
like what fallacies these people tend to commit. Um, like you'll see it in online discourse all the time. One of my favorite ones was an interaction between um, so Sinclair. I did watch a good amount of that interview. I still have a lot of qualms with a lot of the reasoning. We would have to kind of go point by point. That would be like a pause every 30 seconds to dissect claims. Um, uh, it was Lane Norton and then Jordan Peterson's daughter, and then she was talking about something about she has her kids on like meat only diets or something to that effect.
Mm,
And then Lane Norton was like, "Don't do that. That's bad. There's no evidence that this is good." And then rather than refuting the evidence in the argument, she was like, "Well, my kids could probably beat your kids in a race." And then her tweet got like a shit ton of likes and retweets, and then his tweet did not.
yeah.
People respond to this really kind of like basic level of argumentation, which is, generally ad hominem or working on assumed premises and not investigating any further. A lot of what these things do, it's kind of a little bit of a magic trick. This is what the B part is. It's kind of what actually happened. So let's say you're doing leg press twice a week and you've never investigated your leg press technique, and you're going for a jog on the third week and you have some shitty running shoes, right? Your knee starts to hurt. You find this pipeline, Kneesovertoes guide pipeline. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to reduce the load and volume of leg press that you're doing, because he's going to say, stop doing what you're doing now. So you're like, great, okay. I'm not going to do the same load or volume. I'm going to alter my exercise selection. So instead of doing just leg press and jogging only, I'm now going to do lunges. I'm going to drag the sled backwards. I'm going to do some different type of squats. I've altered my exercise selection. And then you're also going to progress conservatively, because he's going to say, in kind of framing the whole magic trick, saying like, listen, these movements are really technical and they're really hard and you need to go super slow. So I unironically had one of my clients talking about how it would take him 9 to 12 weeks to learn how to do a proper split squat, right? You can do a proper split squat in 5 seconds if your parents if they gave you the right ankles, right? If you
Yeah.
have more flexible ankles, you can do it in maybe 10 minutes if you really put your mind to it. But he was like, oh, it's going to take me 9 to 12 weeks to figure this out. And all they're doing is he's just asking you to progress conservatively. If we go back to the what we recommend for pain and injury versus the what actually happened, they're almost the same exact thing. Okay. We're managing load, we're managing range of motion, we're changing exercise selection, we're doing whatever weight or load is tolerable. That's the only thing that is happening. Okay. However, it's just kind of like what you dress it up as. And I think that's the part where it's a lot of harmful claims, because then you go back to the like the bulletproofing thing, where people will be like, oh man, I did the kabuki strength bulletproofing my shoulders routine, and then I still hurt my shoulders at practice, or I still hurt my shoulders bench pressing. I think it's pretty harmful. Chase, do you have any thoughts? Do you get as riled up about this as I do?
Not as much. Like you probably are a little bit more flustered by it than I am, but it at the same time it still affects me because you do get questions, and it's fine to be curious with our clients and stuff like that. But a lot of the time, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like people don't stop and ask why are they doing this?
Right.
How does this improve stuff? The basic concepts of where's he getting his information from, right? And it looks, dude, the guy looks impressive. Like I wish I could do that shit with my knees. But I know deep down in my brain that what he did is exactly what we're doing. We are changing like those principles that you just said. We're changing load, exercise selection, range of motion, loading, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like, what do you think is more impressive, like a split squat where Chase's butt gets really close to his ankle, or doing an overhead squat with 500 pounds?
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't really take much to think like which one of these feats is more impressive. A lot of them are so anthropometry limited. A lot of them are just kind of like coaching limited, where it's just like I don't necessarily know why people are doing these things. These things are just kind of like I said, like last week, like party tricks that end up happening most of the time. And I think it's a really harmful. I see this in the athletic sphere a lot, because with athletes, you're working with people who like really care, and oftentimes they're really banged up. They all have injuries, right? So they're desperately clawing around for these solutions for injuries. And then if we look at Sinclair's comment, followed his program, paid for 1 month, followed it for a couple of months, and my knees are back. Realistically, the timeline for return to mean for most tendinopathies is a few months. So imagine, Sinclair, an alternate universe where you didn't do the Kneesovertoes program, but you did just modify what we did talk about here. You managed the load, you changed the range of motion, you changed the velocities you're working at, you changed the exercise selection, and you increased general movement. Would the same thing have happened? No one can say, because you can't like replicate the experiment twice with yourself. But according to what we know with like pain science, probably the same exact thing would have happened. Which is why a lot of the times these things are I don't really like them. They're very culty when I don't think they deserve the reason to be. Question from Joka again. He said, should weightlifters worry more about Astagrass ROM? What do you think, Chase? You do a lot of weightlifting.
No, I'm not worried about it. I'm just worried about catching the bar. So,
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's some very flexible people out there, and the reason why they're flexible is that, look, God gave them that gift, and they're just made like that. But I can tell you that they're all not worried if their butt did not scrape the platform or if their knees didn't hit a certain ankle. They're worried about, did they rack the bar on their shoulders or did they rack the bar overhead on a snatch? They don't give a fuck about how deep they were or if they powered it or anything like that. They just want to rack it so that their country doesn't, shoot their family member or whatever the fuck in some third world country.
Yeah, it's like I think Rip said something funny about this. I don't know if it was an article or his interview or what. It was like they don't give medals out for who has the best looking warm ups. I'm sure plenty of people have said things like that, where it's like, yeah, if you have like the prettiest 100 kilo clean and jerk in the warm up room, no one gives a shit.
No one gives a fuck.
It does not matter until you actually get to the primary event. I'll see this a lot in martial arts. People will have really good in the gym technique, but they're just people who are just scrappier, who are stronger, who are faster, who can get better results just because of those increased physical attributes. It's not necessarily that it's a magical kung fu technique thing. It happens in the whole world of sports. But yeah,
and all the heavy lifts, like even Lasha, like he struggled with the 225 snatch, and that's fucking impressive as hell.
Yeah,
people aren't worried about how bad he struggled, and people are just like, damn, dude, like this guy just fucking snatched 500 pounds overhead. Like they didn't care about how efficient he was and stuff like that, where I mean he could have been better, of course, from our analysis, but yeah, we're not concerned about how deep he got. We're not concerned about ankle flexibility with that guy. Like, no, that dude, it's he has that shit down.
Yeah,
He's totally fine.
Like range of motion is generally a what problem is it causing thing. I'll talk to a lot of people ask me these questions, especially I work with like a new athlete. They'll be like, well, I don't have very good shoulder mobility. I feel like that's something I should work on. Where it's like, well, what problems is it causing? And they're like, I don't know, nothing. It's never, like I'm never in a situation where my shoulder mobility is like the limiting factor. And you're like, yeah, so who cares? Like it's not too much of a concern, or at least I don't think. What actually happened? Yeah, I think we pretty thoroughly explained what I believe happens. Chase, do you have any disagreements here? Do you disagree with anything for me in here?
Not really. I'm trying to think. Like, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. I mean,
yeah,
it's hard because he's not approaching it how I would kind of like latch onto it. And what I mean by that is like he's not really explaining it in enough great detail. Like, I understand, hey, yeah, like the concept is getting your knees strong, but how are we doing this? From his standpoint, it's putting a lot more moment on the knee. It's doing all this crazy shit with moment arms and load manipulation and range of motion. Like that doesn't make sense to me deep down whenever you actually think about it. Versus what I've been taught and what I've actually done myself, my own experience, how I've kind of progressed with knee pain and how I've gone deeper into knee pain. I know what I've done in both scenarios to help them and to make things worse.
Yeah. Agreed. I think one point that is, we talked about this, I forget it was last week or the week before, I'm not sure. But one thing I noticed about kind of like this gorism or, all these kind of internet charlatans, they really put a tremendous amount of specific value into very specific exercises. They're like, this reverse assisted Nordic curl that you're doing, you have to do it. It's like the best, most specific exercise that's going to make your hamstrings way better. It's like the one cool move thing. It's like all of the Athlete X videos where it's like, you could do this to save your rotator cuff, and it's just a fucking face pull again. All of these, like, they will attribute qualities that are more that are well past what the scope of the exercise is. So it's like, okay, the face pull, it's loaded external rotation of the upper arm, a little bit of scapular retraction. That's all it is, right? Like, what else is like loaded external rotation of the upper arm while also a little bit of shrugging going on? It's turning over in a snatch, like they'll oftentimes say it's like, okay, like, hey, walking backwards of the sled, like that's great. It's like repeated knee loading through a really short range of motion. A ton of other things are, like none of these things are really unique. Like the reason, and then people would say this is hypocritical because starting strength, we just have a big boner for the low bar squat. It's like, I don't think we have a boner for the low bar squat. We have a boner for the criteria that we lay out. And then the criteria is what selects things for us.
Yep.
And then as soon as there needs to be a modification of that criteria for that person's individuality, for that person's anthropometry, for that person's set of goals, the movement may change, because it's more like it's more a how you make the decision versus what the results of the decision are. Hopefully that kind of clears things up a little bit more.
Yeah.
That makes sense, Chase?
Mm-hmm.
Sick. Okay, form checks. Let me pull these up.
So real quick, tell us about the sushi buffet before you forget.
Oh, my lovely wife and I went to a sushi buffet today, and then there was a gentleman who looked, let's say he was like middle-aged, just black guy. He looked like he was really struggling at the bathroom. My wife and I are seated right outside. So if this is where our booth is, maybe 4 yards across from us in that hallway is the entrance to the bathroom. We see this guy kind of stumble in, like he looks like he's like grabbing both of the door frames. He tries to open up the men's restroom door. And then we just hear just this massive projectile vomit. I couldn't really tell what was going on. It sounded like someone was like wringing out a mop or dropped a big plate of food in the kitchen. I was like, oh man, somebody spilled something, guys.
Yeah.
And then I looked over and it was just completely undigested sushi, just halfway up the wall, all the way on the floor. It was amazing. Yeah, I think the funnier part was the busboy who was coming by our table to like they come and grab your plates as you're eating sushi. He just looked up and he was like, "I'm not cleaning that up," and then just immediately leaves. He just walks straight out of the restaurant. Presumably, he's just going to take a smoke a cigarette or something like that. That was hilarious. He just fucking left.
I'm not dealing with this shit.
So I'm not dealing with this. And then the guy, so like the guy, that was the guy who threw up his middle-aged black guy. A younger guy comes over. His daughter, his like very tiny daughter, is like closely behind. And then he looks over with just like such disappointment in his eyes because this has clearly either happened before, or people at the table were like, "Dude, you gotta stop. Like, Rob, you can't keep doing this. You've eaten 60 pieces of sushi. You need to stop." And he's like, "No, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna keep going." So for that guy, it was just like it was the most heroic thing he's ever done in his life. Like he was at like a party table. There were like 6 or 7 people there. You know, they were having like a family affair. So it was like, oh, this is the Johnson family reunion. We're going to go have lunch at, you know, a sushi restaurant and go to fucking Six Flags or something. And my man, he just stumbled to the bathroom, vomited all over the wall, all over the floor. And then the look of disappointment and shock and embarrassment on his relative's face was just the best. It was the best thing I've ever seen in my life. It was because clearly something like this has happened before. It's not the first time. Yeah. If you're the type of guy who goes so hard at a buffet that you project out, you can't even make it to the bathroom. He wasn't that far. He was like 6 yards from the bathroom in the first place. You can't make it to the bathroom. You just throw up all over the wall. That's a lifestyle.
Damn,
that's like that's a personal choice about how you live your life. You know? Yeah. It was amazing. I really liked that. The second part is that there was just an old Asian guy who came out of the bathroom. He had khakis on, those like brown kind of fake leather shoes, like a big oversized polo shirt on, glasses. He was literally cleaning his glasses as he comes out of the bathroom and just walks straight through this big pool of vomit. And then nobody stops him because no one's going to be like, "Sir, stop."
Yeah.
You have to jump 4 feet over the vomit now, or like you're trapped in the bathroom until we clean this vomit up. And then he just like totally does not give a shit. He like looks at it and he's like, "Fucking whatever," and then just leaves.
Step through worst.
Exactly, it was amazing. He was like, "I've been in minefields in Cambodia. I don't care if I step in vomit," you know.
Yeah.
But no, everything about it was just amazing. I loved it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, one of my best sushi buffet experiences in years, I think.
Yeah, like nothing really happens to me like that. I wish, like, fuck, I can't even tell you whenever the last like shocking thing happened at like a restaurant.
The last shocking thing.
Know. I don't even remember it.
You gotta have something, man.
I myself kind of had almost a similar experience, but this was from night of heavy drinking with my friends, and I went out with my dad to have lunch on a Sunday, and man, I was borderline, almost probably had alcohol poisoning. Just nothing was setting right in my stomach. I drank too much water, and I ate a salad really fast. And as soon as I finished that last bite of a salad, like it hit me, and I started, feeling that sensation of climbing up my throat.
Oh no.
And, man, I luckily I got into the bathroom, and it was basically just water and lettuce everywhere in the toilet. But,
just the life of a upset, sick hamster. That's it. That's all that it was. Yeah, alcohol is really bad for you, Chase. Do you still drink at all? How often are you drinking, Chase?
Hardly ever, man. Like maybe on the weekends, like 1 or 2. Like if I do that, like I am a fucking lightweight.
Okay.
Because I just have no tolerance.
Same here, dude. Same here.
Yeah.
I wanted to show you this video because we see a back tweak happen on rep 5 of this set. Or rep 6. I'm not sure what this was. This is an older video that someone sent in for us.
Mm-hmm.
But watch the re-rack here that this guy does. I think we have 2 more reps to get through. And then Hoka, Yoka, Joka. There's an email at the... so there's an email in the description that you can email to. It's support@strength.club. But look at this re-rack, Chase.
Damn, dude, he's fucked.
He fucked himself up.
God damn.
He was like, I did a really bad. He's like, he asked if there was anything wrong with the squat. He had a really bad back tweak. But this is the most painful re-rack I've ever seen in my life.
That's pretty bad, dude.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, on like his, if he is doing 6, I don't know why the fuck you're doing 6, but on those later reps, man, you were just getting folded in the bottom and, yep, just kind of good morning it up. You're losing your back extension. And, man, Rip was talking about this on a podcast not too long ago. Like those later reps, you always suffer with the technical aspect of it. And this was too heavy a load and you tweaked the fuck out of your back, dude.
Yeah, focus more on back extension. Think about kind of squeezing the back of your belt together, aiming your butthole a little bit higher up on the wall behind you. But yeah, like the squats were deep. You're using some hip drive. You just got too folded over. Try to stay more upright. You don't have to cue that way too often, but it does happen. RIP your spine, though.
That's fucking terrible, man.
Totally
Hope
RIP.
you get better.
He's never going to feel better, Chase. He's stuck this way forever. All right, let's try and... Ooh, that doesn't look right. Oh, dude, Thought Slayer 69 is here. What's up, dog?
Hell yeah.
Oh, man, I haven't seen you in a fucking minute. He's been too busy assaulting thoughts. These are interesting squats. Okay, so this is Red Medic, by the way.
I like how he's really adamant about telling his camera person where to be at.
Yeah, I like pointing like that as well. I think military people and police officers, they like to point like this with their hands.
Just all with the
They're
wrist,
like,
just
bam,
there.
bam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always point to things up here all the time. I'm like, it's up there, guys. We have to go up there. Oh, man. All right, how do we feel about Red Medic's squids? How's the squats?
Man, they are textbook fucking global gym squats, man. Just a mile high, all in the knees. Look, you're going to probably need to take this down, probably like 50 pounds, and work on the depth here. So just sit back into your hips, load your heels, and make your stomach fall down in between your legs. And that's going to be the things you're going to have to work on.
Yeah. It may be helpful to widen up the stance a little bit. Get out of the running shoes. You were in kind of those big fluffy moon shoes. I think even barefoot Toms, Converse, whatever you have that isn't fluffy and round, super helpful. Widen the stance up about an inch on each side, I would say. It's the cues that Chase talked about, some of his earlier ones, talking about last week. Get your shoulders, your toes, and your knees lined up. Get your pecs straight down to your knees. All of those would be really valuable. But you said probably at least 50 pounds off this for them?
I would.
Yeah. I think just go back to a plate for the sake of convenience. Just go back to 135. You know,
because what is this, like maybe 200?
I think it's just 20. It could be. Is that a 35? It's 210, I think. Maybe. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Drop it down to like 135, 145, and just get your ass back, man.
Yeah, figure it out. Honestly, whenever I get new people like this, what I'll have them do is in between all of their sets, warm-up sets included, I'll have them do the body weight teaching progression that we do. So it's like, I want you, before you unrack the bar, to go down, elbows at the bottom of your knees, figure out where depth is, say it to yourself, say it out loud, this is where depth is, this is what I'm going to do, and then go and do your squat. I have them do that every set. But yeah, he needs to learn where depth is.
It's like that Gordon Ramsay meme where it's like he has someone in between two bread slices.
Pieces of bread.
Do you do that? And you're just like, what is depth?
What is it? Man, I'll tell you what, dude. I've been getting irate with a lot of my clients recently. Just irate. I hate them all so much. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, man.
This is an interesting one. This is from Nikki. This is one that we got in from the app, so there's certainly a lot to go over here. On the toes. That was not on the toes. That was good. So we're calibrating in a little bit. And we're going for triple. Okay. So she probably in the app selected the novice female progression, so she's probably at triples already. So Chase, someone comes to the seminar. They're doing this. What do you do?
Well, we're going to put them in squat shoes because your balance is all over the place, right?
Okay.
So balance, we're going to fix it with the shoes and your stance. So we're going to need to go way wider heels underneath the shoulders, kick at your toes a little bit, about
Okay.
20 to 30 degrees. From there, you're going to put your belly button straight down into the floor, and your butt's going to touch the wall opposite or behind you, rather. So your
Mm-hmm.
butt back, belly button down, and you're going to hold this leaned over position as you go down and on the way up, making your ass come up first out of the bottom, and this will be golden. But also, we're not going to have pads or gloves as we squat.
Yeah. Yeah, so the pad moves the bar up clearly about like another inch and a half. Like the gloves, it's a forgivable sin. You deal with it later. I'm not gonna kill anybody for the gloves. But the big thing is the stance. Literally just run through the teaching progression and you're fine.
Well, this is the thing too. Like Nikki, there's a video of someone squatting on the app, and
Yeah.
it looks nothing like this. I'm sorry, dear, but it's completely obvious
Yeah.
that you're doing something wrong. So
Mhm.
look, the knurling, if it's aggressive, wrap some tape around it maybe, but you'll be fine if you put it into a more lower position on your shirt and let it carry on your shoulders, and then let's say the cervical spine that you're just resting it on.
Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, I would also say wear an actual shirt, not a tank top. As much
Yeah.
as you may like to show off the guns for squatting, you always wear a shirt
Mhm.
or a tank top that cuts off at the sleeves, not the stringer. Yeah, because I've noticed a lot of people. That's something that I very rarely think about, but I think a lot of general population people do. Just they don't want the metal touching their skin, which I'm like, come on, you can deal
Really?
with that. Yeah, I've heard
Hmm.
that all the time. All right, so that was Red Medic. Who do we got here? Oh yeah, we'll go to this guy. I believe we're watching a triple here. Thoughts?
So these aren't bad. He's probably someone who has either had some knee pain. I'm just assuming this. Either has had some knee pain or is really conscious about using his hips, but now you've kind of like overdid it.
Mm-hmm.
You're pulling your knees and your quads out of the lift, right? So everything that you're thinking about currently, so getting your ass back, leaning over, yes, that's fine, but now make your knees go past your toes. Let them go forward and touch the wall almost, and then hold them there and let your quads help with the extension out of the bottom.
Yeah, rep 3 was the best for that. Rep 3 had more of a forward knee position, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like keep the squat being a leg lift. Think leg press, think hack squat.
Mm-hmm.
Like keep your knees out over your toes.
I've actually
Maybe,
used I've used drive through your quads sometimes with people like this, and it
yeah,
helps.
yeah, for sure. One thing I really like is that I just tell people if they've ever done a front squat before, but like just front squat this, please.
Yep.
Just front squat your back squat, and they'll be like, probably figure that out, and then they'll get it within a set or two. Yeah, more quads in the game. That's about it though. This is a pretty decent squat. That's what we got:
Mm-hmm.
365, 370, 75, something like that. Okay, so it's a deadlift. Here's a squat. Yeah, we'll watch this one now. Chase, I don't even think I'm going to be able to do my 30-minute movie review now.
Oh shucks.
I know. I'm sorry that you'll have to miss that.
I was really, very keen
You're
on.
very excited for it.
I have a notepad out too, so to take
Oh
notes.
no. This seems like 85 pounds to me.
I'm just kind of like curious about the gym, man. This is kind of like a weird decor. Like I guess this is like a barn.
I think this is an outside carport is what it looks
Or
like to me.
it's kind of cool.
It's really tall though. Yeah, so this lady also has the opposite of the gentleman before's problem. So the last guy was holding his knees too far back and was just, doing a ton of hip to get this thing up. This lady is keeping the knees super forward, and then not using enough hips.
Mm-hmm.
So bar position looks fine. She's leaning over a good bit. Head is staying down. How would you cue someone to use more of their hips during this squat, Chase?
Either two ways. Actually cue the hips itself. So like make your waistband, make your butt come up first, or keep your chest down, boobs touch the floor a little bit longer, belly in between your legs, stuff like that. Or if they have a belt on, drive the belt up first.
I really like I think this area, so back extension and then getting the hips out of the bottom, those are the two best tactile cues, or the best use case for tactile cues, I think. Yeah, tactile cues, like if someone is at the bottom, you just take the back of your hand, fold your fingers in a little bit, and then just kind of wrap them on their tailbone right at the bottom, and then push this up, get this part up. They'll jam their hips up, and then you're good to go.
Or even just physically moving their hips up for them, like how Rip does. Yeah, that helps a lot too.
Yeah, by the way, everybody, word to the wise, do not try that on a working set.
No, do not. No.
If you have someone on a working set, pause
Here,
and then
I'll help you.
Fist them. Yeah, don't. That's how you spot the squad. That always reminds me of those videos of like Indian gym bros spotting each other on the lifts. Do you ever see those, Chase? It's amazing. Sometimes it'll be like someone's deadlifting, and then the guy is like holding his butt down and then physically pushing his chest up during the deadlift rep.
Oh my fuck.
Or it'll be like one guy's squatting, and then the other guy will be behind him, like cupping his pecs, squatting with him, and they'll just like do
them up.
Yeah, they'll just do a set together. It's awesome. Yeah. I love those videos. True camaraderie and bravery. Just men sharing powerful moments with each other. But yeah, so do you think about the stance? Do you think this gets a little wider? I think maybe a little bit wider.
I don't know. I think the stance is fine. She's probably just not shoving out her knees enough.
Okay.
So make some room for your legs. Like, so right there, it's kind of caving in. They're just pulling in, and your chest is coming up. So spread your thighs apart a little bit harder. Make some room in between the legs, and then drive your ass up out of the bottom.
Yeah, that should be an easy one. Let's see. We got one more. I think so. That was Red Medic. Yeah, we got a deadlift to watch. But yeah, everybody, highly recommend going and seeing Louis C.K.'s movie, The 4th of July. I went.
So is it going to be out like on Amazon, I guess, or is it?
I don't even think. I think you're just going to have to buy it off of his website. I don't think it's going to be going anywhere else. I doubt they'll even replay it. But it was in most theaters for one night only. I went by myself. I was like, quick, I got to get a bicep pump, tricep pump, tightest polo shirt I owned. It was one of the first movies I've seen in a packed theater. There was barely any empty seats. People were talking to each other in the row, which was very weird. Most people never do that during movies. Most people are just they don't talk at all. People were chit-chatting with each other. It felt like I stepped back in time to 1980, whenever America liked each other more. But it was a very pleasant experience. The movie was very sad and very stressful, I would say. So
is that why they were talking to each other during the movie?
No, even in the beginning, like I sat next to two other people who came by themselves, and I was like, "Hi, how are you doing?" It was just being super chit chatty. It was a very diverse group of people who came to the movie. It wasn't all. There were a few other bros like me who were just pumped up, tight polo shirts. There was a bunch of fat people. There was a bunch of old people, a bunch of young people. There were families, a bunch of singles. It was great. Louis C.K. bringing out the best in America, I think. How do you feel about this deadlift, Chase? I think it's a little bit forward, and the top is weird. We got some of this going on.
Yeah, so lockout is shit. Man, a lot of this is just, it's stemming from the lack of back extension. So you may be able to hold your back extension during the setup, but not during the pull. So that's going to be the big thing. I think your stance is fine. Like, you take a good bit of time kind of making sure that your feet are aligned, you're an inch away, all that jazz. But you're not really focusing on setting the back on the later reps, right? So there you're kind of just yanking at that point. So you need to feel the weight in your hands. So make it real heavy, take out the slack, and then imagine if your back was a ski slope, it needs to be nice and flat, right? So your shoulders are a little bit higher than your ass, but this rounding position, you can almost feel like your shoulders are sinking down, and that's a bad position, right? So shoulders stay up, show off the chest, make wrinkles on your shirt, and this will be golden.
Yeah, he has the flight path of the bar down. The setup distance is good. A lot of times if I have to cue something like this, I'll just stand mostly in front of the person and I'll just tell them to point their pecs at me the whole time. The whole time is like, aim your pecs right at my eyes. And then even at the finish, he's kind of hunching at the finish, right? He doesn't have thoracic extension, so he's making up for that thoracic extension by shrugging. But he just needs to squeeze the pecs up. Squeeze the pecs up, you'll be in a better shape.
So do you do that with your female clients too? You're like, show me your pecs.
I do not work with females.
Oh, okay.
It is a rule. I'm also, I live in Iran, so I'm coming to you live from Afghanistan.
And they're just all wearing bed sheets anyway, so it's fine.
I try to treat them no differently than I do male clients at all. Same cue set, everything exactly the same. Tactile cues exactly the same. Nothing changes. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I do anything differently. Do you do anything differently, Chase?
Maybe like my tone, how I kind of communicate like that. But tactile, no. Like you always kind of see like a very green coach whenever you have a very attractive lady. Yeah, a very attractive lady, especially on the bench, and she's fucking up her bar position, and it's okay. Hey, it's okay. You can touch your belly button or your abs. That's your new bar position. It's like no, like, don't be fucking weird. Don't go like this to their chest. It says just dab. It says quick little there. And that's how I do it.
Because it's like I never touch anyone's the southern portion of their pecs, even if I'm getting like under someone, or let's say if it's I'm reaching around in a squat and I'm saying pick your chest up to my hand. It's right here. It's like up here. If you're trying to do back collarbone. If you're trying to do back extension, if you're if you're kind of pushing someone's mid back down, you're trying to get their chest up. It's up here. I'm never like, hey, I need you to extend your chest. Same thing with the bench. It's never happened on the bench. Nothing weird has ever happened. Even the hip drive. Cassie Neiman, she did a really good job of this. She was one of the first starting shrink events I went to. Her and Alex Beasley in Richmond. So the way she did the hip drive, it was knuckles for both, and then whenever she was like holding someone's chest down and then needed to pick them up, she would do something like this, basically try to turn to her side. She would put that kind of like right basically on the origin of their hamstring, right in their sit bone to push them up, because no one's ever like, I'm gonna drive your butt up and then just cup it. No one's ever like, I'm gonna tell you to drive your hips up now. And then have you seen someone do something spurgy like that before?
I want to say yes, but maybe like an apprentice that I was working with, who just was kind of brand new, and I mean, it was the timid stuff for damn sure, but like touching him inappropriately, maybe just like too much like back slaps, or just like, look, man, just like, hey, you got to drive against my hand, like just kind of being a little bit overzealous with the tactile cues. But as far as like anyone like groping, no.
Perfect. That's what we want. We want people who spurg out, but not grope. If you have to choose your sins there. The new coaches always get very timid about tactile cues. I think that maybe, I don't know, you are a platform coach. Is that one of the key things that you guys look for whenever for the opt-ins?
Oh yeah. So like if I'm grading someone on the deadlift and they have not used a tactile cue, and same on the bench too, like you got to show them the positioning, you got to show them back extension, all that stuff. That's a fail in my books, because I mean, you clearly have not taken the time to actually explain this more efficiently, and that's with tactile cues. Because I mean, you can be really great with coming up with awesome cues at work, but cut through the bullshit and get the person to move better by just putting them in a position.
Yeah, it's just the simplest way of doing things. Like literally, it is the most simple way to get someone to move somewhere is to push them there. Asking it adds a whole nother step when you're introducing language. Use of tactile cues is super important. Anything else you want to cover for today, Chase?
Nothing comes to mind.
Okay. All right, cool. If you want videos on, email them to support@strength.club. Check out Chase's Instagram. It's Chase's heavy week next week, so we're going to see him doing some crazy shit.
I'm not going to film shit. No.
Dude, come on. You got to film everything. Oh, my God. Do you work out with Phoebe, by the way? Is Phoebe training while you train?
No.
No? Okay.
No. I will
It's
not
because
do that.
she would be coaching you. She would be nagging you about your
No, it's
technique.
the opposite way. It's like, oh, can you watch me? Can you do this? Oh, why are you lifting right now? You're supposed to be spotting me. I'm like, look,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna take the same level of concern if we're both in here because look, you know your shit. I'll help you a
Hmm.
little bit if it's on your work set, but I'm not gonna watch every single rep. I'm not gonna do basically like a paid client would and just sit and wait on your every whim. I'm not gonna fucking do that shit.
You're like, Phoebe, you can pay me for my emotional labor.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phoebe, you could just
Mhm.
pay Chase. God, that's funny. Yeah, no, my wife is the same way. If we ever work out together, she'll be like squatting with the empty bar. She has perfect technique. She
Mhm.
she had it very shortly, and but literally, she'll be like, "Did it look okay?" And I'll be like, "I'll tell you if it doesn't. Just
Yeah. Yeah. Like they don't
go in."
believe you. Like we're just like, oh, this looks good, babe. Oh, excellent,
Uh,
babe. Yeah. It's like, no, well,
hmm,
we're gonna do our job and tell you how
yeah,
to fix things.
like literally, I'll just do a thumbs up, just thumbs up, thumbs down at this point. I'll be like,
Yeah.
thumbs up. That's it. Don't get away from me. I'm getting a
Yeah.
bicep pump.
Yeah.
um, but what's his name? Joka. We're online most Sunday nights. Most Sunday nights, dude. But yeah, email some videos in. We still have a few more to go through, but we'll save them for next time because we're running over anyways. But yeah, send in some videos. We'll watch them. All right, everybody. Later. Thanks for watching.